about Illuminati, since the charting up Dux. Is it Disney mind control? Is this MK Ultra Deluxe? Occult Disney, go wish upon a star. Occult Disney, should know what to chat for. Occult Disney, Pineal Gland, Pinocchio. Occult Disney, as a bomb so low. Pinocchio seeks fun on Pleasure Island, where traffickers need just fallen minds. Captain Hook, a lost boy in Neverland, saving kids from Peter Pan's designs. Nemo feels to survive the Barracuda, and that nobody needs no one. Snow White never took another breath. Bird Prince, the angel of death has come. Occult Disney, we go from real to real. Occult Disney, Bohemian Grove and no more real. Occult Disney, ask about to Illuminati. Occult Disney, we teach occult to everybody. Occult Disney, go wish upon a star. Occult Disney, you know what to chat for. Oh, Occult Disney, the new brand Pinocchio. Yeah, yeah. Occult Disney, it's a bomb so we go. Occult Disney, please enjoy the show.
Hello, welcome to the Occult Disney podcast, where we go opening all the doors of the Disney company to find out what monsters they have in their closets. Lots of monsters and Monsters, Inc., of course. This is Matt here, as always. Joining me is Thomas, Paranoid American. How's it grooving?
This is going to be my big episode. This is going to be my big breakout role, I think.
Yeah. Cursed so far for the listeners. This is take 2, where tornadoes. Like, we actually started the podcast and started talking about monsters, and then your power just went out. So, you know.
Yeah, and I'm so used to it. I've got everything on battery backup, so we kept talking for like 20 minutes after, like, the AC's off, all the lights are off, but like we were just kind of chilling, hoping it would come back on. It didn't.
Right. So week later, I don't know. I mean, I've forgotten everything we said that time. So at least I won't be, if I'm repeating myself, I won't remember saying it the first time. That's a good thing about crappy memory, I guess.
Well, and we were only a little bit in, and I think we were both geeking out a little bit about how this really is one of the better Disney movies. And then I brought up Little Monsters, and that I grew up with Little Monsters, which was kind of my Monsters, Inc. as a kid watching it. Because when Monsters, Inc. came out, that was one of the first movies that I was at Disney, and I was still working on some of like the residuals from this. It wasn't when the movie came out, because I think it was like 2001, but within like 5 years from then, I was at Disney working on games and animations, and I remember this is one of the first big properties that I actually got to get my grubby little hands on, and I made a little game where it was like a matching game, where you like turn the cards over, and if they match, and the whole thing was that you clicked on doors, and each of they would slide in, and you'd click on a bunch of doors, and when it opened up, it would show you like a different place in the Disney park or like a different Disney movie or something, and you'd have to just keep matching them all. It was actually a pretty decent game for the time period.
What was the context? Was it like outside of a ride, or was it because it's before mobile games?
No,
so
this was a online game that you could technically play on your phone, because it was like done in kind of like a lightweight, but it was in Flash. So it was also before Steve Jobs decided to just destroy. Well, I'm not going to get onto this like technical tangent, but
no, Flash. There's another one. I'm like, I remember Flash. Oh, by the way, for folks, Google Little Monsters, because when we did this the first time I did that, the image was like, whoa. If you are a younger Gen Xer, an older millennial, you're gonna see that and be like, oh yes, Little Monsters. I haven't thought about that for 30 years.
I love that movie. I think about it all the time. Just because Howie Mandel's style in that, he was kind of like a monster George Michael, like a George Michael demon, but way cooler than George Michael. But he had like the same aesthetic to his whole getup. You know what I mean? And this is on the tail end of Bobby's World, or it might have been around the same time that Bobby's World had a little bit of traction. But I mean, for some reason, Howie Mandel was kind of like a hit with kids for the longest time.
He's bubbly. I guess that's it. I don't know.
Well, it had Kevin from the Wonder Years, so that was like it had two kind of huge stars for a very small niche, but the premise was the same. It was about monsters that kind of like had their own worlds, and they would come up into the human world under their beds. And Monsters Inc. It's through the closet, you know what I mean? But it was kind of the same premise where a kid gets access to this monster world and can go and explore and meet the other monsters and kind of like make friends when they're off the clock, you know what I mean? And that was kind of that constant theme, is that the monsters that kids see, the scary version, is kind of being put on for a show, and like they're actually really chill. It almost reminds you of like drill instructors in the military. Like they gotta be angry and mean and scary the whole time you see them. But the second that you're out of training and you like see them again as a normal person, or at least within like work environment, they're like a normal human being that like, you know, joke and stuff. And they're not just like yelling at. I don't know. There's a lot of correlations with this whole like Dr. Jekyll Hyde thing.
Yeah, I guess my weird monster world thing is even more obscure, which maybe I mentioned here before, which is the early 80s Canadian educational show, Read All About It, where a 12-year-old boy inherits a newspaper, and they find in the newspaper one of the first words they learn is conspiracy in that show. That's worth mentioning.
And it sounds vaguely familiar, but maybe I'm just putting memory syndrome.
They find this TV and a typewriter or something that are like, you know, anamorphic or whatever, and talk to them and are teaching them vocabulary. And then they start getting beamed off to like these weird like alien lands where like evil demon people are like you will solve these math problems or we will murder you. And then the aliens are infiltrating their town. That's why conspiracy is one of the first vocabulary words you learn on
What year is this?
Maybe 81, 82. It's all on YouTube. I recommend just typing in the third episode, which is when it starts to get really whack, which is you type Read All About It, The Problem Pit. It's about 15 minutes long, and it's the trippiest thing I think I've seen that's like made for kids.
I mean, this kind of just confirms what we've noticed a little bit as a pattern, but that in like the 80s to 90s child programming, it kind of incorporated conspiracies and aliens and government corruption as like the baseline. Like usually those type of plot lines were omnipresent in the background of the series and didn't even necessarily warrant their own episodes.
Paging Alf.
Yeah, Alf. Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of happy that I grew up in that time where like aliens were and Satanists are around every single corner in real life and on TV. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, well, but ET, that creeped me out when all the CDC or whatever show up. You know, that freaked me out as a kid.
You know that they replaced all the guns with walkie-talkies and they added a baptism scene.
I didn't know about the baptism. I knew about the walkie-talkies. Haven't they changed it back though by now?
Well, I think the world has, but I believe that George Lucas was the one that wanted to like get rid of the guns.
Spielberg?
Sorry.
Okay. Lucas might have been a producer on it. I don't know. So it might have been
but in retrospect, the 25th anniversary edition, they basically removed a couple scenes and they swapped out guns and walkie-talkie. I've got a weird feeling about how they retrofit movies, and it's like, talk about false memory syndrome, which I mentioned earlier as a joke, but this is like the real version of it.
I'm all about the ride myself because you get to go to the green planet and meet Botanicus. So
are we talking ET still?
Yeah, we're still talking ET.
It wasn't a bad ride. I think it's long gone in Universal Studios in Orlando.
Still in Florida. No, it's still in Florida. It's the Lone Survivor.
Still?
Yeah.
Wow, dude.
Yeah, you got the Lone Survivor ET.
Okay.
Monsters
the very
ride.
end's kind of whack. It's very dated.
Oh, yeah.
Unless they've redone the end, but it had some of the cruder animatronic. Even at the time, they were not exactly up to the same bar as some of the Disney World animatronics. And last time I was like over a decade ago. But even then, it was like, man, you guys still haven't updated this. Like, I know how much I paid for this ticket.
No, when you meet Botanicus now, I've seen recent reports that when he says your name, now it sounds like he's saying it through a blown out subwoofer. You know, you know.
That's pretty much what I remember. Yeah,
but I haven't been to Universal since any Universal park since '95, I think. So
see,
any memories
with
I
AI
have
now, they're missing out on a huge opportunity if they don't have it all trained voices and actually say your name in his voice and even like show you a version of you on the green planet. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Now, just geography lesson for Japan. I live in the mountains of Nagano. Getting to Disney's a bit of a bitch, but you get to land and see relatively easily. But their Universal is actually in Osaka, which is like way far away. So, you know, young and single people can bop down there. My buddy Luke, who lives nearby, he's been there a few times because he wants to see Mario, you know, ride the kart game. Take a picture with Peach, that sort of thing. Monsters, let's see, it was released November 2001, is it? So November 2nd, 2001. I just been dumped from a long-term relationship, so I would have been horribly depressed going to watch this the first time.
Did you get dumped and then just run and see Monsters Inc.?
I got dumped in September, but I think I was still kind of bummed out about by November. Yeah, so I don't really remember seeing it, but I know I went to see it opening night because this is the point in my life where I would have been like opening night for a Pixar. So,
so I was definitely in military training at this point because I remember the first movie that I saw out of training was in December, and it was How High, and it was the most awkward thing because I was like first time in my life that it would have been like a felony to basically do anything that they were doing in the How High movie. So I was like watching it stone sober with a bunch of other stone sober military guys. But so if this was November and that was December, I was out of the movie game for the longest time coming up here. So I was basically Brendan Fraser coming out of like a time capsule.
Oh, right. Well, yeah. Blast from the past.
That is Blast from the Past, yeah.
That is Blast from the Past. No, that's where I was introduced to the idea of the decked out, you know, silo or whatever, which I was watching YouTube videos about like last week. So
if you look, there was a company that specialized in selling other people on getting, so like underground bunkers. And I think the headquarters was based in Vegas. And in the 70s, they had like a 4 or 5 story underground bunker. And like the lowest one had a recreation of an outdoor scene. So you would like leave the bunker and it would look like the outside of a house. And they had like artificial trees and grass and like a picnic table. And I mean, that's my absolute dream. Like if you know, I had like Elon Musk money, I would just have a house that was a fake version, and then underground's a real house, except that one's also fake. You just keep going down, it's all fake houses, and eventually you get to like the real one.
Well, yeah, the ones I watched, it was one was South Dakota. It was like where they used to stockpile all the nuclear weapons. So they aren't like super deep, right? They're just in hills, but those are being turned into homes. And
I'm for it, man. I think
showing a video of like you saw one where it was like completely empty, one where it was like being worked on, and then you saw the guy's actual house, which you know was like all wood paneled and you know it had a little bit of a Dakota vibe, but that's cool. The other one was like the super rich one, right? Which is like the 8 stories deep missile silo, in which you know it's got the beach room and that sort of stuff, and a classroom, and yeah,
those ones should be scary because if you've got like one of those ultra rich sort of like magnates, I would rather them be very narcissistic and want to like spend their money in public and like look at all the gold buildings and look at all the fancy things I'm buying. The one that like turtles up and starts building underground silos is the one to be concerned about, I think.
That's what the Michael Bay movie The Village is about, right? You put all your clones in there.
I feel like they didn't have the budget of like an Elon Musk though.
I'm talking about the people in the movie where the company had created the giant underground fake world to keep all the organs safe in, basically.
There also the movie City of Ember has a little bit of a vibe to this too. I don't know if you've seen it. It was like a young adult novel movie, but it's about like an entire city that's underground, and there's a little bit of a Plato's Cave aspect to it, which also Monsters Inc. It kind of is, if you look at it, it's like a retelling of Plato's Cave in so many ways, where one of them goes and sees like this new truth, and tries to go back into their underground worlds and tell everyone about like this new reality or like this ultimate truth that they saw outside of the theater, and nobody believes them, or it's like dangerous.
Well, maybe we start our breakdown of this by considering, where is the monster world? I do my Twilight Zone podcast where it's always like, what is the Twilight Zone in this episode? Where is it? Did people go through it? Where is this monster world? Is it dimensional? It's not Hollow Earth, I think, or could be. I don't know.
Well, they absolutely have some sort of a teleportation technology, right? Because the way they go in and out of rooms is through a door. Like they have an actual physical door that represents the way to get into your room.
My room.
They go through that door and they enter your room, and if they leave, they come back out that door. And if they shred that door, then they no longer have access to it. So it's almost like, imagine if they shredded every single door, like where do the new doors come from?
I was about to say, let's chicken and egg it. How maybe every time a door is created in our reality, it like appears like there's a land of the doors somewhere in Monster Town. Which probably has a better name than Monster Town.
When you have an angry teenager that's like punching holes through doors, does the hole show up in Monsters Inc. world as well?
Does it go both ways? Yeah. Can we affect them? I guess I just keep thinking Archon is like my basic overlay here. Like the monsters are kind of Archons, and so they have a supernatural power that we do not, especially with the doors. Like, I feel like if the teenager punches the door, like it doesn't affect the monster door. But I have no reason to say that, so whatever.
Slightly darker take here, but you could also interpret this movie as the database of doors that they can shred once they're like out of use or whatever, or that they like get red lights. This is basically like Epstein's black book. Or this is like his Rolodex. Like those doors are the Rolodex. And when one of the doors has been burned, they just kind of shred it and get rid of it. Or you can get the red light, and the red light is basically a green light. It's like, okay, you can now enter and exit through this door. And the whole premise is that they go into a child's bedroom and extract fear or scream from them, which has a lot of different weird connotations. Maybe Stephen King comes up, especially if you've seen Dr. Sleep. It's kind of like doing a Dr. Sleep thing where they have a physical device. When I watched it, I was thinking of Ghostbusters, the same way that as a kid, Ghostbuster would like trap a ghost and they'd have to put him in like a little storage unit. And that storage unit had a finite amount of ghost area that it could store. And then they have to dump it into like a bigger ghost area. And that's kind of exactly what happens in Monsters Inc. They go into a room and they have to extract, X amount of fear. And when they come back out, that is represented as like little metal canisters that have little progress meters and everything. And the whole goal and the way that you become like a superstar or celebrity is to like extract the most fear out of anybody else. And that's kind of the way they portray them in this movie, right?
Yeah, maybe this is the time of the Sideways Ghostbuster sequels. You got Evolution about the same time, right? So... Which I'm just thinking of other Ghostbustery like movies. I don't think they're extracting anything particular in that movie. But
what was that? What was Evolution? Was it a live action?
That was a live action with Sean William Scott and somebody else. Now I regret bringing it up. I enjoyed watching it 20 years ago, but that is like the last time I watched it. But I just remember watching that and also being like, oh, this has a very Ghostbuster vibe, more than say Ghostbusters 2 did.
Oh, okay. I was trying to think of a Ghostbusters movie called like Ghostbusters Evolution.
Oh, no. This is completely
I know which one you're talking
separated.
about.
Yeah. It's completely separated. I remember being a very goopy movie. So the official take on this movie is apparently like half of the 2000s Pixar movies were basically conceived at a lunch, including this one. The idea from director Pete Docter being that, well, in Toy Story, the toys come to life when you leave your room. So what comes after that? And his next thought was monsters in the closet, which wouldn't have been my thought. I don't think I was ever too concerned about monsters in my closet. I don't know. How about you?
I distinctly remember Unsolved Mysteries made me think that there were murderers like waiting to sneak into our house at night. Like I legitimately would be up thinking about all the like, because the premise of that movie is like, hey, there's this murderer on her loose and we have no idea where he is. We're actually relying on you to tell us. And it was like, does that mean I'm going to see these people? And then the other one too were like fires, because there was I can't remember if it wasn't Unsolved Mysteries, but there was like a 911 emergency style show that was like the exact same formula. And every single week it was just like, and little Johnny burned to death in his room. And I was like, oh, no, that's me. I'm little Johnny.
I'm trying to think what were my actual childhood fears. I was scared of the Phantom Zone.
Really? I was
Superman 1 and 2.
Fires, which I almost feel in retrospect, like that was a very mature thing to be worried about. I lived in a wood house.
Yeah, sure. But yeah, okay, the Phantom Zone I was scared of.
What happens in the Phantom Zone? Do you get like snatched away in the middle of the night to go there? Or?
Well, I don't know. Have you seen the first 2 Superman movies?
If I did, it just went.
Okay,
I was a Marvel kid.
Well, they get sentenced to whatever for doing whatever. I don't remember. And then just out of the sky, you see this little glimmer, and it's like this, like polygonal mirror thing that's like flipping in the air, and then it flips over them, and they're just trapped, and now they're in space, like and this like mirror thing. So.
Oh, okay, yeah, that would suck. That almost sounds more like claustrophobia.
Yeah, or not agoraphobia. But I've worked out that being around too many people is my problem. It's like 3 villains all stuck in this mirror, so that might be the kind of claustrophobia that got to me.
You ever seen the movie Mother?
I need to. It's Aronofsky, right? But no.
Yeah, that's one of my fears, I would say.
Okay, I've heard many people say that, so get to that one day. The other one was the Lucas Games Rescue on Fractalus. Ever heard of this one?
I haven't. I was also in this regard, I was like a Sierra kid more than a Lucas.
I like the Sierra too, but we had this is before Sierra's. This is early 80s.
Okay, but before my time, at least.
Before your time,
I had an Apple at this point, and I think like all I was playing was Commando and some like Sesame Street games. So this is where our age difference will show a little bit more.
So this Lucas Arts, I don't remember what they called the game division at the time, but it was on the Atari 800 XL, which was not like a Atari console. It was a computer. You had a keyboard, you could get a disk drive, that sort of thing. And
you have your pocket protector in right now?
Yeah, sure. But anyway, it was like Rescue on Fractalus. You would fly down to a planet to rescue astronauts. But some of the astronauts were actually aliens that were there to kill you. So when it was an alien, if you didn't pick up on the tell or whatever, you're just looking at your screen and suddenly, blah, there's an alien in your face. And that would like freak me out. And then we lost the game. And it was always what happened. So I think what actually happened is my dad like just hid it or got rid of it because it kept flipping me out. But yeah, the ongoing joke to this day with my family is, have you found Fractalus yet? You know, so...
And that was one of your fears with the aliens that jumped out?
That's right. Well, playing the game I loved the game. But yeah, it was like, but the alien would flip me out because, yeah.
The scariest game I remember as a kid was one called Seventh Guest. And it was like big because it had come out on like the CD-ROM. And it was just like a weird puzzle game that you were in like a haunted mansion and you were trying to solve these clues. If you go back and watch it now on YouTube, it's like, incredibly cheesy. But again, like, in the late 90s on a CD-ROM and a computer, this was like the most cutting edge consumer gaming had to offer, like way beyond 3DO or like I don't think PlayStation was out at this point. So it was like the top of the line, and you would turn the lights off, man. It was almost the same when Doom came out, like the very first Doom. I remember that one scared me if I had the lights off.
You see, I was old enough for Doom. I was just like, I've already seen, Peter Jackson's Dead Alive, that sort of stuff. So whatever, by the time I got to Doom. Fair point. But yeah, I was just reading did I finish? Yeah, I finished it. It was All Your Base Are Belong to Us, which is a video game history. And yeah, Seventh Guest gets a full chapter, of course. So here, though, we're getting back to our monsters and the basic fear of monsters in the closet. I'm not scared of my closet. I have guitars and a synthesizer in there. I like my closet. So
if a monster can find some space in my closet, good on them. Like they deserve to find that space. Cause like mine is basically a completed Tetris level, like the final level that doesn't have any slots left. You know what I mean? Maybe like there's one long spot, but like you won't have enough time to rotate it to get it in there. So
you
yeah,
have a snake-like monster. Like what is Steve Buscemi's character in here?
I mean, I get snakes in my house all the time. In Florida, when it rains, they usually will chase them out of wherever the hell they're hiding at. So very often, I do find snakes in my closet.
Randall, that's it. Okay, yeah. I had a snake encounter a few days ago. I was walking down the street, and this massive one is crossing the road, and it's like, I think I'm just gonna let this guy cross before I bother continuing down this road. I don't know. They say seeing snakes like that's good luck. I don't know.
You know what scares me more than monsters coming through a door? Cops.
Snakes coming. Oh, cops. Okay. I was going to say snakes coming through a pipe. That'll do it.
No, I'm trying to think if anything could come out of my closet, what would be the scariest thing? A bear or a police
SWAT
officer?
team.
Yeah, those are, yeah, and it's a entire SWAT team, no doubt. But that's probably the scariest thing. They should have like a SWAT Inc. where it's just like they're busting drug dealers or something, or maybe they're even worse. They're busting people sharing Metallica songs on Napster. And just, like, raiding the house. That would be kind of cool.
There's a Japanese before you see a movie, there's the no piracy thing, and it shows some lady like doing the download, and then I think cops whose heads are flashing red lights burst out of her closet. So that seems to be your nightmare.
Well, they could collect Scream very easily.
And I was going to say, cops in Japan is such a weird thing because I'm from Atlanta. When I'm walking down the street and there's even in Japan there's a police officer, I'm like, let's kind of avoid that. In Japan, it doesn't matter though. One, they don't have guns. They have to go to the station to get a gun if they need it.
Wait there. I'll be back.
Really. I haven't been pulled over for speeding, but I've been told if they pull you over for speeding, they're just like super polite about like, oh, I'm really sorry to bother you, or that sort of stuff. They're still giving you a ticket, so you're not getting out of your ticket, but they're just super polite.
Can you cry? Can you cry your way out?
I don't think so. I think you'll still get the ticket. They'll be polite. Maybe they'll sympathize with you, which the American police won't do. Now the
studies that statistically the best way to get out of a ticket is to cry, male or female, although it is higher success rate for females.
Yeah. Where the justice system gets a little gnarly is if the cops arrest you for like an actual crime, they consider themselves sure. It's still innocent until proven guilty, but it's kind of not. You'll hear about where once they have arrested someone, they'll pummel them till they, admit, that sort of thing. That happens a lot. And then the conviction rate is like 97 or 98%. So there's a boxer from the 60s. It's just been the news again where he was accused of murdering a few people, a family or something in the mid 60s, and was on death row for something like 40 years or something. He finally got released 10 years ago because they have DNA tests, which basically shows, he did not do this. But now the justice system is like trying to bring him back in for another retrial simply because since it's a 98 conviction rate, they're like, no, we can't be wrong. So we have to do it again. So it's like kind of hubris, So
if there's a Monsters Inc. version of getting onto the radar of the Japanese police, that would be my monster, like a little Japanese policeman.
Well, if you do want the police to be your monsters, get tattoos, especially the Yakuza sleeves, and the police will not be.
Well, I feel like the Yakuza then become the monster as well. Anything like motorcycle. Or, like gangs in the U.S., you don't want to just start putting their logos on your body unless you get endorsed from them.
Right. I think tattoos are slowly getting more popular in Japan with regular people. But if you want to go to the hot springs, a lot of them are like, you can't have a tattoo because one of my friends who is American,
you can't have a tattoo if you want to go to the hot springs.
Correct. Some, not all. Some, like I often go with my friend Maddie. Well, that's confusing, Matt and Maddie. But he does have kind of the.
Is that just because they don't want any Yakuza there, so they just say no tattoos? Yes,
and old people just get flipped out if they see that. But so him and I will go to hot springs, and I just got I know which ones don't care. So, but we can't just go to any. So that's a thing.
There's actually a funny thread in here because in the Monsters Inc. world, they're portrayed as having like regular job, like they're kind of a cross between celebrities and athletes. I think it's hard to tell exactly what their role is, but kids know about them and they're on TV and they have commercials and stuff. But when they go outside in the world, the other monsters also recognize them as being these like celebrities, and it's like, oh, sign this thing for my kid, or my kid loves you, and then they go on about their life. And they've got construction workers, and I think they had either a meter maid or some sort of a government worker in one of these scenes, which then implies there is a police force within the Monsters Inc. universe. So there could be a scary like Monsters Inc. cop that can still like you can get swatted by the Monsters Inc. crew.
Yeah, got to be a monster to the monsters in that case. I guess if I were to think of what they are, I might equate them to 60s astronauts. I mean, in public stature, like everyone knew who the Mercury 8 were, was it 8 or 7, whatever. But, they were like national celebrities doing something for the country, I guess. In this case, it's a space race, and Monsters Inc. it's power, which power seems less glamorous. But they are going into another dimension. So that seems like a pretty big deal.
Okay, yeah, we could say they're little like astronauts, but they're out to like scare Loosh out of aliens in a way.
Right, exactly. Because of course we appear as the monsters to them, which that makes sense. Because if aliens land on this planet, we probably can't look at them without going insane, right? And they probably the same from them towards us. So
there's one maybe like an existential kind of issue or question that I've got with this movie. And it's that, spoiler alert, at the end, they discover that laughter, it's kind of cheesy, but like, laughter generates even more energy than screams do. So now the monsters sneak into the room and they make kids laugh. And then that's how they get their energy. And that's kind of, the Disney-esque ending. But I'm just thinking, this is not a symbiotic relationship in any way that I can tell, right? Like these monsters have access to children's rooms, and they could in theory hurt them. Like they could be doing horrible or cause the kid to hurt themselves because they do something scary. You could scare someone and they've got like a heart condition. There's all kinds of things that could go wrong.
Randall seems
even if
seedy.
You're making them laugh and stuff, right? So what do humans get out of this?
Nothing. That's why archons come to mind. Me wanting to keep it metaphysical. I know we'll take it to other routes, but I'm like, my first approach is the fun metaphysical thing, where I'm now thinking about like David Icke energy stealing situations and archons.
Yeah, no, I think that's probably the most appropriate real sort of analogy for all of this. That they are these interdimensional reptilian shape-shifting, aka monster creatures that are here just to steal our Loosh energy, and that's what they feed off of, almost like an actual sustenance, which is a decent one-for-one correlation here, because in the Monsters Inc. world, our scream energy, which is later laughter, but let's just keep calling it scream because that's what they call it for like 99% of the movie. So they use scream energy to literally power their lights and their phones and like their entire society. And if they don't generate enough scream, then they don't get to use any of their technology, and they're kind of stuck in a little bit of the dark ages. And this is even in the case that when they bring Boo, which is a little human girl, into the monster realm, her getting scared or laughing, almost like a wireless Tesla energy effect. Like it'll just turn lights on around her. So it's almost like they've got this weird tech that doesn't work exactly the same as it does in the human world. I know we're talking about a movie here, an animated movie, so they don't have to make it all work in these factors, but it would just be interesting that if I had an energy source that could just like turn things on around me if I had it here.
It's also this weird constructed civilization we see in this movie, and I'm scrolling down the list of our films we're covering. I guess this is where we're starting to have to break down what are the rules of the society. Where are they? How does that work? And we're going to have to do it again when we get to Cars, of course. That's, people love to talk about that for Cars. We're going to have to talk about that again with Zootopia. So, we just start to get to these weird, like, alternate society movies, which I think we haven't done up to this point.
Well, and I think part of that, too, is that this is the start of really solidifying the trend in Disney movies to take place in the same time period as the people watching them. Up until very recently, almost every Disney movie took place at least like 30, 50 plus years in the past. And there was almost like a detachment where they didn't have to even worry about technology or alternate dimensions unless it was magical. You know what I mean? Things all fit into just like, oh, it's all just magic. But now that these things aren't happening in the past, they're happening at the time the movie's being released. They kind of have to keep up with some of the technology. And through that, they also kind of have to go with the regular zeitgeist stuff. Like what are people talking about in the zeitgeist? So if we're talking about time travel and interdimensional portals and stuff, then it finds its way into these like modern Disney movies.
Well, here's a theory that I am just pulling out my butt, basically. But maybe by this point, it's like you don't need to do the Disney proxy all the time. I mean, it is here a little bit, but as they're taking the kid away.
Here. A kid, Boo is completely separated from her entire planet.
Right. No, I'm saying it's still there, but I'm saying that with this movie, we start to see a lot more of the Disney silo. Now they're showing you a place they want you to be, more so like in the modern world. I mean, and think about now with the corporation. So you and I, the Disney proxy worked. I mean, I think my parents raised me, but I mean, let's be real. Disney probably affected me as well. So that's working fine by 2000. So now we show this other place, and now it's like they bought all the IP. They've now siloed, like, come live in our world of Star Wars and old school Disney and Marvel and all that. You know, the Alien is now a Disney property.
Yeah, well, the fact that they've got Star Wars and Marvel under their belt, like they definitely own like a majority share of my childhood.
It's like the breakaway civilization now. That's Disney's becoming your breakaway civilization, you know, for your mind.
I've got a direct quote from this movie. And they say this twice in succession. So they say it first in real time, and then we find out later that Sully was like recording it. He's kind of pulling a dirty work scenario where they've got like a secret recording going as they have the villain admit to something, and then they play back this exact quote. So technically you hear this twice. And when I heard this, I was like, this is the Disney sort of business model. And the quote is, "I'll kidnap 1,000 children before I let this company die."
Yeah, that's it. Come on, you can see most CEOs saying that today.
Right, but I mean, like, for it to be in a Disney movie, it is so self-aware. I almost wondered if the writers, or like if that was put in specifically to represent a person that they knew. Like, we would never know the answer to that question, right? But I almost feel that guy represented someone on the board that was like giving approvals.
Eisner.
It was Eisner, yeah. It was Eisner literally saying, "I will kidnap 1,000 children before this company goes under."
I'm actually just kind of looking through to see if there is any note here about what they based him on, but I can't find anything specific. But I mean, yeah, Disney rides, for example, it's funny because they'll have the one that's coming to mind is Japan's Disney Sea's Tower of Terror, which features the horrible imperialist Harrison Hightower III, who's based off of Joe Rohde, who did not work on that ride. So they just like will base the characters on rides off of other Imagineers, you know, I guess as a tribute. So, you know, I imagine that would happen in the movies as well. Again, the toy collector in Toy Story 2 was supposed to kind of be Lasseter. So
just nice little Easter eggs in here. We've got plenty more.
Oh, yeah, of course. When I was scrolling, though, I did get a bit of the alternate casting, which is mildly interesting. Let's see, Billy Crystal.
People that might have been cast but weren't.
Yeah, Billy Crystal apparently took the role because he had turned down Buzz Lightyear and considered that to be a mistake. Okay, actually,
man, not for us. Tim Allen is Buzz Lightyear 1,000,000 times better than Billy Crystal.
Oh yeah, worked out fine. Well, I guess people aren't into Tim anymore, but worked out fine voice wise, casting wise. Okay, here's the big one. Tell me what you think of this, because it really changes the movie, but I don't know if I might like this. Bill Murray as Sully.
I can see that.
Yeah. John Goodman's got the big bear energy, so that kind of helps. But, you know, I guess I'm just a big Bill Murray fan. We've already been talking some Ghostbusters today, haven't we? So, Anyway, that was a big one. I thought I was going to have like 3 or 4, but that's the only one that really sticks out looking here. So,
I don't really have any complaints except for, and maybe if you've got the list of characters and their actors up, but whoever was playing, what was her name? Edna? Whoever was playing like the angry old lady, it seemed like they never replaced it. Like they were always meaning to replace that in ADR or something, and it just never got done. Because they've had so much better of those like raspy old lady voices in Disney cartoons. And this one, I think it was like one of the other voice. It was like a dude's voice trying to sound like an old lady voice.
Bob Peterson is Roz. Let's see.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, Bob Peterson is Roz.
He was an animator on Toy Story, co-director, co-writer for Up. So yes, he is not like technically
did he just
a voice
insert
actor
himself, or did it was one of the low points of the movie, and the movie is good enough that this is like one of the things that I might need a nitpick over. But
he's
they
also
could
going
have
to be
knocked it out of the park with this voice, and it was like mediocre at best.
He's going to show up again in Finding Nemo as Mr. Ray, which I believe is the teacher at the beginning. So,
did I just burn our chance to get him on?
And he took over a Michael Keaton role in Cars. Okay, that's weird. Anyway, that's not quite here there, but yeah, you actually called that out. That is not a voice actor. Other people who are definitely not voice actors. Well, I mean, I guess technically James Coburn, Jennifer Tilly, Steve Buscemi, Billy Crystal, and John Goodman are not voice actors. They're just actors.
Well,
right?
I would definitely argue against Jennifer Tilly because she had done Bride of Chucky at this point, I think.
Oh, yeah, that was good. Yeah, you're right. That was good.
And she was born with a cartoon character voice. So
yeah, okay. No, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying she isn't a
you better not
on-screen actor. So that doesn't necessarily equate voice actor. Sometimes it's good. Again, I mean, I think Crystal and John Goodman they're fine, right? They're good in this movie, but it doesn't always work. The movie Epic, where Steven Tyler provides a voice. If you want some bland fun, you won't notice when he's talking because there's nothing to his voice. Frank Oz is Fungus, Randall's assistant. I guess that's the guy that keeps losing his fur. So
I honestly, I can't think of many other things that I had an issue with in this movie except for Roz's voice.
Yeah. I didn't even pick up that I didn't pick up that Fungus was a Fozzie Bear and Yoda. Okay, so always down for a good Muppet voice. So, well, I don't know. Let's crack into a few things on your notes because we can gush on this movie. It's really good. So whatever we're going to say next, we like it. I think so.
All right. Well, I'm just going to make a note. We're about 40 minutes in here because this is where I have to talk about Adrenochrome for a little while. And
Chrome.
there's we'll just say the damn thing, and I'll if I have to censor it out later, because I also want to share some slides or at least describe some things in more detail. So there's actually a lot more going on than just the Scream collection. So just like in the Dr. Sleep movie, just kind of like in the It movie, also Stephen King, where the clown kind of like feeds off of children's fears. We kind of have that theme with the Scream here. No different, right? Like it's not something that hasn't been done before and repeated. But there's also a few little weird, like specific nods in here, coincidental or not, that has gotten the internet like hyper focused on Monsters Inc. being some kind of revelation of the method for Adrenochrome, which I think it's if it was more heavy handed than it needed to be. You know what I mean? It's not that subtle. If it really were the message. But one of the interesting nods of this is that the very opening scene, when they're showing the monsters how to scare the scream out of children, for some reason, it starts under the bed. And as it pulls out, it focuses on this soccer ball. And it like keeps zooming out. And at the very end, you'll notice there's a nod when they trap the evil villain and they get him to admit all this stuff on camera that I mentioned before, where he said, I'll kidnap 1,000 children before this company goes under. In that scene, they show that same soccer ball that they showed in this very first scene. So just continuity. It's a really nice trick to like show a prop and then show it again at the end to kind of like put a nice little bow tie on the end, like a little period at the end of the sentence. But the reason this got highlighted is because if you've ever seen the actual Adrenochrome molecule written out in a skeleton formula. It has something called an indole in it, and that indole, people say, looks like a rabbit. And there's weird connotations with like adrenochrome and rabbits and follow the white rabbit. And I do have a visual just in case it helps portray this a little bit more. So what I've got here, this is a book that I've been working on for a while. I won't get too much into the weeds on that, but this is all about adrenochrome.
So, to me, it looks like a green alien on its side, a green alien taking a nap. That's what I see.
So here's the actual skeleton formula for adrenochrome out of the many different ways. And then here it is. If you rotate it 90 degrees and you flip it over, you can kind of see where the rabbit look kind of comes from, right?
Yeah.
So the actual shape that you're looking at right here is called an indole. So there's plenty of substances that have this shape as the basis. So this is the only one that looks quite like this. And then here you go on a little, I don't even know where this one came from, but this was like the perfect image. So on a soccer ball is somewhat unique in that it has hexagons and then pentagons. Like the black squares on a soccer ball are 5-sided, whereas the white ones are 6-sided, right? That's exactly the makeup for this skeleton formula for an indole.
You say right, but I never noticed that on a soccer ball before because I'm not a soccer fan.
I mean, I don't think I did either. I always assumed that it was just the same shape repeated over and over again, but no, it's alternating shapes in order to make that pattern. And then in the Monsters Inc., just here's another example of a soccer ball, and there's the little indole. And I've kind of got these notes, and I'll just read from a couple of these. So here's when they're describing the extraction process and what exactly they have to do. It says there's nothing more toxic or deadly than a human child. A single touch could kill you. Leave a door open and a child could walk right into this factory, right into the monster world. Again, this is like that all-encompassing theme that also is represented in Little Monsters. There's a lot of different stories where this particular thing, like, don't let them beyond the curtain. It's almost like Wizard of Oz, right? This is like peeking behind the veil. This is if you were like bust into a Mormon temple and look behind the veil. This is all the same thing over and over. Like, you can't let the profane into our secret realm of shadows. Like, it'll destroy everything. So then they say, one of the guys freaks out and he says, "You can't. I won't go into a kid's room. You can't make me." So the monsters are actually afraid of the kids, maybe more so than the kids are afraid of the monsters, which is just like. They're worried about getting exposed, though. Like the kids aren't going to do anything harmful to them. This is coming from the top down, saying they're toxic, they'll destroy you, they're poison. None of that's actually true, but it makes them afraid of the kids they're trying to scare.
Well, I had a class yesterday where maybe that is the case. For the past month, every Thursday, 6 kids, reeks in there, and I haven't figured out who the problem kid is yet.
What do you do about it? Do you send a note home that says your kid's stinky?
I don't know which one it is. It's probably one of the boys. It's a 25-minute class, but man, it just lingers for like 30 minutes after that, which sucks.
Like onion?
It's just like kid funk, like extra strength kid funk. That's why I'm like looking, I won't go into the kids' room. You can't make me. I see like send them into that room. Like, they're not bad kids, but one of them's got some like gnarly socks or something. I don't know. So I think it's gnarly socks. That's my guess. The sock is what follows them into the Monsters Inc. realm originally, right? That's what gets stuck. Fungus de-loused or whatever, isn't it? So I get it. I understand. So the final quote here is this is the boss telling them, "You're going in there because we need this." And he holds up the container where the scream is supposed to fill up, and he says, "Our city's counting on you to collect children's screams, and without screams, we have no power." So you can make some correlations here between like the adrenochrome and the scream basically being the same substance in a way, and that it gives them this mystical power that's kind of unexplained, that they've got some sort of advanced technology that converts the screams into, in Monsters Inc. case, it's like electrical power, but I guess in like the conspiracy realm of, reality, I guess I got to put that in quotes, like in our reality, that power is almost transferred as like political capital or
cultural power or like
Yeah, the
longevity or something.
The thing in the monster world is it's for the head trip. It's for, you know, basically mind control, not of the kids, but of the workers, you know, which, hey, that's why we go to school for 12 years and sit in rows and have lunch at the same time, right? Get ready for work, kids.
A great point though, because all the workers have been lied to, specifically about kids being dangerous or toxic. It's almost like a necessary lie that they tell them all. But that would also go to imply like that can't be the only lie. Like, oh, that's just the one, and they found it out. It's, you know, nice and over and done with. It almost seems that they would be using the screams for something other than electrical energy. You know what I mean? If that lie is so important and so prevalent, it's got to go beyond what the real purpose of Scream is.
Yeah, it's like again, Solly and Mike seem to be quite famous. They're the actors, they're the astronauts. Those people aren't at the upper tier of society. I mean, they have more money than us if they're successful, but I don't know what an astronaut made in the 60s, but yeah, it's like they're not power elite. Actors are not power elite, you know, usually.
So I've got 3, I think, pertinent bullet points that links the real aspects of Monsters, Inc. to Adrenochrome theories. So first bullet point is that it's a mystical substance that kind of has like a odd connotations to it. It's a little taboo. It's not really well known. It's kind of a mystical substance to start with. It is primarily harvested from children. Like they make no point in this entire movie that they're ever trying to scare an adult. And the way that they say this is that like kids have become so desensitized by movies and TV and whatever, movies like Monsters, Inc., you could argue, but that kids have become so desensitized that they can no longer get the same amount of scream out of them. And that's what's leading to, you know, this like nationwide bankruptcy / power outage, like a brownout, because they don't have enough power to generate anymore.
Well, yeah, actually, Japan has had some of that, especially after Fukushima, and they turned off all the nuclear power. We had a few months with rolling blackouts, which, yeah.
What's the chance you go into one of those reactors and it's just like a bunch of toddlers screaming?
Oh, what, the Fukushima ones? Yeah. Robots screaming at this point. They keep sending in robots there, and all their circuits burn. So it's like Wall-E hell or something. But yeah, so we had a little bit of that. I'm also thinking, I mean, there's the oil industry thing where it's like, oh, are there other forms of power? No, there's oil. Keep doing it, you know?
Well, yeah, that's another good point too, is that like maybe they do have other forms of energy. Like,
well, laughing turns out to be one, right? Which still requires the kids. So that's not out of the equation, but it seems nicer. I mean, everything in Monsters, Inc. seems nicer than if you want to get into some of the really deep, dark theories, right?
But see, again, they have like mundane jobs. They have engineers and construction workers, and I'm guessing cops. But they've got like cars. You know what I mean? Like they actually show cars in their world. So what do the cars run on? The cars aren't running on Scream. So maybe they are, but it's not electrical energy. But then it's almost like if everything runs off of Screams, now we're back to the chicken and the egg, right? Like, how did they manufacture the first doodad if the first doodad was there to like generate Scream? Was there a Benjamin Franklin of Monsters, Inc. that learned how to capture Scream in a bottle? You know what I mean? Like the first, like he attached himself to like a string, and like there's almost this aspect of I'll give you a practical example. The thing that shreds the door up, right? It's like an actual mechanical, like a shop piece. That thing, I assume, is running off Screams. The thing that shreds the door is running off Screams. The whole system where they type in a door and the door like swings into action and everything, I assume that also is run off Screams. But if their entire system of how to get Screams is run off Screams itself, then how did they create the first door?
I'm looking at a website right now. You've probably heard of the Pixar theory, right?
So what's their theory on here?
They want to link all the movies together and have made a new timeline for them. So I was just curious where they put this movie. And actually the answer is like insane. They put Monsters at 4,500 to 5,000. Let's see what the explanation is. Hundreds of years after Wall-E, animals started changing due to radiation called by big and large or whatever, by and large. These animals evolved into monsters and accidentally wiped humans off the face of the earth. They falsely taught the monsters that humans were toxic, blah, blah. They're going into the past. Monsters were worried about being erased from existence, honoring history. So Monsters, Inc., this only goes up to Brave or whatever. It doesn't get the really new stuff. But it puts Monsters as the farthest future Pixar movie, which is, I don't know, fun to think about. I don't think I know if I agree with that, but it's interesting.
I like the idea. I'm not against the idea. I definitely think that's giving the Disney execs and writers and everyone way too much credit because as we've seen sort of firsthand, unless they're just trying to throw us off the scent. But sometimes the self-contained movie itself doesn't have that amount of coherence. So to think that they're actually plotting this all out on like a massive timeline that interconnects and makes sense, it does seem more fantastical than even my conspiratorial mind is willing to allow.
No, that's why this is fun for me to look at. I mean, I'm doing a pop culture conspiracy theorist, so if you have a whack idea, I'm open to it. I'll just shout out. This is not something I'm going to keep referencing, I think, through the Pixar films, but here is the order of films as listed on Brave, 14th, 15th century. That makes sense. 50s or 60s for Incredibles. That makes sense. Toy Story 1, 97, 98. Toy Story 2, 99. Nemo, 2003. Ratatouille, year it came out, 2007. Toy Story 3, year it came out. They're putting up slightly in the future for whatever reason. Cars, 2100 to 2200. So that means the other cars would be that. Why is Cars before WALL-E? I don't know. I'm not going to read all this. Then A Bug's Life is like after WALL-E. A Bug's Life, and then the Monsters movies is their ordering, and all in the distant future. Again, I mean, it doesn't make sense, but you know, it's fun to think about, right?
Well, I like the idea that Monsters Inc. That they're time travelers and that they are going back into the past and then harnessing screams from the past to generate power in the future.
But that was an interesting thing. It said the monsters kind of accidentally made humans go extinct, right? So that's yeah, that's a fun wrinkle to think about when you're watching the movie, I guess. If you
that could be a legitimate fear of the elites, is that like they over harvest the adrenochrome from the people, and all of a sudden like they nix out their supply.
So the Matrix comes like just before Monsters Inc. then, I guess.
Yeah, yeah, it is the same premises as the Matrix essentially. Except in the Matrix, to get into the weeds, they explicitly state that they are harvesting human BTUs, which is a measurement of heat, right? And they're basically converting human body heat back into energy, which seems like the least efficient way to harness energy, just because of the insane amount of nutrients in the process that you would go, like you could just burn things, you know, and get way more BT, like coal. Like they were just treating us as coal. Why didn't they just actually use real coal? It seems like it would have been way more efficient than using humans.
Maybe the supply runs out really quick, you know? Because I'm thinking you're saying it's for Matrix talk, it's really inefficient, but at that point, that's how desperate the machines are. The sky's been blacked out. Maybe there are no more.
They have to convert protein and calories into human nutrients, which then go into creating cells. And then at the very end of all the things the human body needs, then it can start generating heat as like a byproduct of excess, right? But that means that they like the alien robot tentacle things in the Matrix could, in theory, be just harvesting those calories raw without processing it through a human. The only thing that would make sense is they want us for our brains, but even that is very egotistical. Like, I don't know, I might want a dolphin brain to run my computer. I don't think I'd want a human brain to run it.
That's what they do in Star Trek. They have cetacean ops, which
exactly
is referenced all the way back to 1987 when Next Generation came out. The geeky books including cetacean ops, but we didn't get to see it till about 2 years ago on the animated show. So
John C. Lilly was 70s, 80s, right? So
they totally riffed on that because they have the porpoises or dolphins popping out. Right? Come swim with us, swim with us.
Oh yeah.
So they were definitely 80% definitely referencing that.
80% of the time, every time.
80% of the time, every time. Yeah, I'm not completely sure, but that's how I read it. That's for sure. Looking through my notes, usually snarkier in yours, rolling blackouts. We did that. Oh yeah, they should spread some love for Scarer of the Month. You can't just choose the same guy, even if he's good, you know?
Yeah, but that was also one of those references of like, that was too real. Like, I've been in plenty of jobs before where it's like, come on, give somebody else a little bit of motivation here. Don't give it to freaking Danny for the third week in a row.
Here's a question that, and I heard some people arguing this on different podcasts, but who is actually the villain in this film? Number one villain, is that Randall or Waternoose, the CEO? I guess from our point of view, it's easier to say Waternoose, but Randall is building the extractor, right? That's going to actually start doing this harmfully and kidnapping people. Waternoose just says yes, approve the plan because he'll let 1,000 children, whatever, right?
I mean, if you put yourself in the shoes of a monster, Randall seems like the good guy in so many ways because he does know that Sully has been basically going off the book and doing illegal things. You know what I mean? Like, there's corruption within the system. Although it might be like a Robin Hood, like it might be a noble form of corruption, but they kind of, before they realize that what they're doing isn't necessarily bad, they're hiding their crime of accidentally bringing this contaminant. And if the world were true that the kid was toxic and it was deadly and that it was like a major issue, this would be like accidentally bringing home radioactive material from your job site, like Homer Simpson style, and like not telling anyone about it. Because like real people get hurt, you know, horribly from that happening. So in that case, Randall is sort of the good guy because he's like the whistleblower that's kind of like letting everyone know about this corruption in the system. And we already sort of noted that there's no benefit to humans through any of these interactions with monsters. Even if they're laughing, they don't really get anything out of that. They're losing sleep, right? Like there's a monster creeping in your bedroom. So Randall is just making that process more efficient. I mean, there might be the equivalent of vegans in the Monsters Inc. World where they're like, oh, that's horrible. But at the same time, you know what I mean? Like on a moral or a value aspect, I think Randall represents what's best for monsters in like their own interests.
Okay, glad I'm asking then. Because yeah, you know, other people have, oh, it's really Randall because of this, that. But yeah, it's like he's the big gnarly plan, of course, is Waternoose, right? He's the one pulling the wool over everyone's eyes, I guess, or I guess it's not clear how long they've been doing this. They've been doing it for, I mean, Monsters University we get to later, right? So it has to have been at least 20, 30 years of this. You know, how long has Monster Society been technologically this advanced? And yeah, it is like, how did they get power in the first place while building this civilization? Okay, we got to that a little bit already, but it is a bit of a brain corker.
But also, if they swap out screams with laughter, does that mean that they can start going after adults now? Because the original premise was they had to go after kids because kids stopped getting scared at a certain age of monsters, and therefore they can't harvest anymore. But laughter, like you could still make like farty poop jokes and get an adult to laugh at that and harvest their energy from that. So I don't know, like it does seem like they would have expanded operations tenfold plus with the expansion of laughter and harvesting it from everyone. But they imply that they're still only harvesting it from children, even at the end of this movie.
Yeah, because I was like, you know, one-eyed Billy Crystal. That sounds bad. But anyway, doing stand-up for a kid, I don't think that's going to take so well, to be honest. It's, you know, eventually he'll just have to start bopping himself on the head. Isn't that what he does in the end? I don't know. But,
it is what he does, yeah. I mean, kids love physical comedy because it is the ultimate form of self-deprecation that breaks through any language barriers.
Oh yeah. I've learned to do a very good looking like I'm walking into a wall thing for kids and things, so they love that, right? But yeah, okay. So we're gonna stick with the corporate one, I guess, and give the Villain of the Year award to Waternoose.
As you should.
By the way, as things don't exist anymore, did you realize that there was 2 seasons of a Monsters TV show? It's like not surprising and surprising at the same time.
Yeah, no, I mean, like I said, like from this moment on, I was like in my beginning years in the military, and I didn't even know about the outside world for quite a while.
The show was 2017, by the way. It took them quite a while to make it. But
that's weird. No, that's actually particularly weird.
I know. That's why it's. So
it's like, again, hey kids, remember this movie that you saw 15 years ago? Are you still really into it?
I guess they're just trying to get a new other media. Let's see what it says about the show.
Usually wait a generation, though. Generation being about 30 years.
Yeah. Goodman, Crystal, Tilly returned as Mike, Sully, and Celia. Okay. Peterson returns as Roz. Sorry. And also voices her twin sister, Rosie.
I mean, I wouldn't be against doing some of these like straight to TV sort of, follow-ups on
You'd
series.
be in for 20 episodes on this. They made quite a lot of them.
We could make a lot of them.
I'm just trying to figure out what it's actually about. I guess it takes place after the movie. Okay, premise. Oh, the show begins the day after Henry J. Waternoose III's arrest. Okay. Making a transition to laugh power. They have a new scare.
Like some of our questions might be answered in this.
You're right. Yeah. Tyler is devastated to learn that the company is no longer in need of scarers, and he is reassigned to work as a mechanic on the Monsters Inc. facilities team, miffed. Meanwhile, Mike and Sully encountered the trials and tribulations of running the company. In season 2, Tyler's position and friendships at Monsters Inc. are put to risk when he receives a job to work at business rival Fear Co., suggesting someone else is still doing it. The Fear trip. Okay, interesting.
I'm in, man. You're selling me on this.
And Mike and Sully take the company, which adds a weird wrinkle because now they have basically engaged in corporate espionage. Maybe Mike and Sully are the bad guys.
This is sounding like a coup inside of Disney at this point again.
I know, really. So actually, yeah, I'm sitting here looking, and this actually could be interesting because by 2017, TV animation should be on probably still look better than this good-looking movie. I mean, I have the only one that I think we really took a poop on for Pixar so far is A Bug's Life, which kind of deserved it. So
yeah, although the humans in this one are they are scarier than the monsters. Boo is more terrifying than any monster that they show you.
I like that as a kind of a style choice. This sounds wrong, but it makes sense. Apparently they had to animate Boo's clothes separately. So when they did the initial animation, they had Boo running around naked the whole time, and then they animated clothes over her, so so it would fold and crease properly. But I'm like, that sounds weird when you read it.
Well, back to the Adrenochrome link.
I know, that's why I'm like, that's weird, but yeah, practically yes, makes sense. If you said you were doing that with in Beowulf with whoever the Vikings were, they'd probably do the same thing. So whatever. Monsters at Work. Oh, the second. Sorry, this is really up to the second season. Actually, just premiered last month of this monster show. It's brand new. The second season. Okay, they just made them like
prior to it. Okay,
they made them like 3 years apart, which I guess that happens now. So, interesting. Okay, well, that's why we look this stuff up, isn't it? I'm taking a cryptid time with a Yeti. Oh yeah, have I ever mentioned that I'm considered to be a cryptid at my job?
You are?
I'm a cryptid, yeah. Because I'm never we now have 4 schools. I'm never at the main school. People see me a little bit at the South School, and like nobody sees me at the one near here.
You have sightings?
Yeah, right. People are like, I had a Matt sighting or something. So
a Matthew-san?
Yeah, I've become a cryptid. No, Matthew-san is someone else because that's confusing in the orbit of my work. I'm Matt, and then later a guy came whose name was Matt, so he ended up being Matty. Then another guy came whose name was Matt, so okay, he's Matthew, I guess. So,
so you just Matt-san?
I don't hear that much. Usually, I hear
nobody respect you. Is that why?
No, they respect me more. The kids say Mato Sensei, Mato, because it's Japanese sounds, and then Sensei. I get to be a sensei.
Okay, that is pretty badass, man. I haven't been a sensei yet.
Doctors also get called senseis. Lawyers get called senseis. Sensei basically just means like master. So, any kind of like master of their domain is not the term I'm looking for, but you get where I'm going. Being an English teacher in Japan, it doesn't really require mastery of much, but we still get the
yeah. But I would like legit just like record kids calling me sensei just to flex on like my American friends.
I should, I could. But yeah. So I don't get Mato-san because his family would say Mato-kun. Kun is like the kind of like boy term of endearment. Here's a weird one. And then chan is for women or girls, but young boys are actually called chan. So I'd be Mato-chan if I was like 2 years old. And then when you're about 5, they'll change it to kun. So that's kind of interesting because, like pronouns always come in the States these days. In Japan, it's just everyone's san, right? Or like, it doesn't matter what gender or between you are, you're san. But then with kids, there is that little distinction. So,
If they had thought it out more, they would have adopted the Japanese sort of way of going about pronouns, right?
Yeah, that's the thing. If you were to be like, hey, why don't we just do the Japanese thing and everyone gets the same pronoun? But I don't think people would like that now.
No, I mean, that's kind of the antithesis, right? It's that you can make your own one up. Like my pronouns are actually both emojis that don't even exist yet.
I might have to steal that line somewhere. Okay. But yeah. I mean, honestly, if someone says like, I want to be called this, I'll try my best to remember to call them that. No problem. The only thing is, I guess when you're just like use it as, if I'm using a shorthand in a large group of people and someone gets grumpy, that's kind of annoying,
I feel like the moment someone mentions they've got a preference for something other than what I would do naturally, like you just became you. Like that's because that's the easiest way for me to remember everything is like you, and then you don't have to worry about it, right?
Yeah. I honestly, I think I tend to do that.
There you go. It cuts through all of that.
One of the things I'm really bad at as a teacher is using names. Partly because, again, my memory is Swiss cheese. I have trouble remembering names, and I'm always worried I'm going to screw them up, And like sometimes I got it right, but and then that once a month I'll just say the wrong name and I'm crap, and then I'm like, too much in my head about it again. And then you might have like Yuzuna, Yuzuki, and Yuna on the same class. Like I can't keep those in track,
We had a substitute teacher in my first high school before I got expelled and went to a new one. Different story, but in my first high school,
the second one was better, right? You told me that.
It was so much. But anyways, there was this one particular substitute that would substitute my physics class in I think 11th grade, and he was the umpire in Major League, the movie. And so like he was kind of cool, but he was also like really grumpy. Like he was an actual umpire, I think, and he didn't want to remember anyone's names because he knew that he was just a substitute. So it didn't really matter that much, but he also had to kind of know like how to call people out. And he would just call people like Fatty or Curly or like Sleepy Eye, like, hey, Sleepy Eye. And it was the best. Like, I wish that every single sort of teacher had always like adopted like their own little nicknames and just like, hey, you Stinky. You know what I mean? Like once you find out who the Stinky kid is, you just call him Stinky now, and there's no pronouns or anything. It's like you almost have to earn having even a name, and it makes you value. Like if he called you by your name, it was just like, damn, bro, you're in with him like that. You know what I mean?
Well, in the teacher's room, we've sometimes discussed why don't we just start calling our kids like different, like infamous world leaders, like this kid's Stalin, like Pol Pot again. Yeah, it always gets back to that. You got any more note clusters you want to bop out? I think I mostly hit my.
I do. I was trying to see if I could find a picture of the guy, but searching Major League umpire, it's just too broad of a term. So maybe I'll.
I'll
look through the IMDb names at some point and see. Though it wouldn't matter to anyone. Okay, another one, that initial room that has the soccer ball, right? That has the indole on it, that it's supposed to be the rabbit, and like this whole, that same room also, and other rooms in this movie have a checkerboard mat in the middle of the floor, which is an interesting coincidence that completely unrelated children's rooms that they go into both have this same black and white checkerboard rug on the ground. And it's in the very first room that we see with the soccer ball, which also ends up being the last room because it's like the test run room. It's like their danger room. So anyways, you got the Masonic checkerboard floor in there, just a little extra feather in the cap, I guess. Here's a question, because when I was growing up, monsters were scary because they would eat you, right? Like that was the only real reason that you would be afraid of a monster, is because they would tear you to shreds and they'd probably eat you. And I don't think we see anyone eat in this entire movie. So I'm wondering, like, what do these monsters eat?
They go to Harryhausen's, the sushi place, right? Mike's Date.
Correct. Well, what's in there? What is actually,
yeah, do we see it? But yeah,
what's inside of that? And do they poop?
Mike doesn't. We see the full Mike, don't we?
Right.
Comes out of his eye.
He doesn't have a butt. Yeah, I guess he poops out of his eye. But that means that in the monsters thing, I was just wondering, is there literal monster shit?
There, Solly takes very large shits, I'm sure.
Right. Well, his would be like a monster shit, like a literal monster shit.
Yeah. It takes on a life of its own, I guess. Oh yeah, I guess we do have to talk about Mike being an all-seeing eye a little bit.
He's an actual embodied all-seeing eye.
Yeah, I don't know if it goes any further than that, but I have to say it out loud.
It does though, because every time that he's published to the public, he's always obscured somehow. He's always hidden behind a logo or a barcode or something. And the running joke is that people think that Mike's going to be like upset, and they're always just like, "Oh man, this had to have been a mistake," or "Oh, it doesn't look that bad," because he's like completely obscured. You just kind of like see his hands or something. And then the joke is that he's like, "Oh my God, this is awesome. I'm on the front of a magazine." But if he's a literal all-seeing eye, that would be your expectation, that you would be on the magazine, but that you would be obscured, and only the people that had the eye to see it would be able to make Mike out. And that's why he's still really excited about it.
He had the eye to see it. On TV, you did see him for a split second before the logo came. So
right.
I'm like, he could be happy about that. I have the opposite thing. I had to record a bunch of kids songs in the past year so we can make videos, so we can stop using the YouTube ones and be like, oh, it's our own company stuff. But again, being the cryptid, I'm not in the videos much. So the kids are always disappointed I'm not in the video. Oh, Matt Sensei, you're not in the video or whatever. I'm like, no, but everything you're hearing is me. Everything you're listening to is me. You're not seeing me, but you're hearing me. I'm the most involved with this, but they don't catch that.
No, it doesn't matter. There's
I'm singing
another
with the TV and it sounds the same. You can't tell.
It's sort of like a fundraiser. If they raise X amount for you personally, then you'll appear in the video.
No, I can't be bothered to do that. They're all finished. I'm finished with that. Yeah.
Even after they take care of the arch enemy, what's the ultimate villain's name again?
Waternoose the Third. Waternoose. That's
Waternoose the Third. Even after Waternoose the Third is on his way out, the first kind of official mandate is none of this ever happened. I don't want to see any paperwork on this, which implies that there's already a CIA within the Monsters Inc. There's like because the person that says this kind of knows about like records and espionage. Like that's the whole reason that they're making this case. And it's Roz, right? Roz basically is like, oh, by the way, I'm, the leader of this intelligence operation. So we're going to sweep this under the rug. The public doesn't know about this. So Roz represents CIA, secret government ops. And I would argue corruption, because the only reason that you would need to have that kind of or have that level of opaqueness in favor of transparency is because you're either trying to weed out some more corruption within your system, or you are the corrupt thing within the system, right?
Well, it seems she's within the company.
Right. So she's HR, which means that she might not be working out of everybody's best interests.
Okay, they call it the child. Wait, they call it the Child Detection Agency, and they quarantine the restaurant. So that would suggest government. Okay, so I guess she's a government plant. I guess it's like putting like Mockingbird in the newspapers.
The fact that she would even be a plant you wouldn't need a plan unless you were ferreting out corruption. And the fact that they found Water Sneed the seventh, Gutter Snipe the fourth, whatever is his Water
Noose the third,
the eighth. The fact that they're not like, okay, we found it, we weeded out the only guy that was causing problems in our entire society. No, they're like, we need to keep this under wraps, which kind of implies that he was still a small fish. Like they're still trying to ferret out a much bigger conspiracy. But what could be bigger than, well, maybe this is all answered in the TV series.
Yeah, I'll say Roz apparently is in it, so maybe they get. Of course, it took them 20 years to get to it almost. So, well, 20 actually. It says it aired in 21. So yeah, 19 was production. Excuse me. It's a pretty new show. Definitely in the era of times when shows don't exist. I just started watching the TED TV show just because I have friends that are podcasting it. And before that, I was like, "What? You're going to do like a bunch of episodes on the movies?"
TED TV was like the Truman Show, right?
No. This is the Bear. The Bear. Seth MacFarlane's Bear has a new series.
Scott MacFarlane one. What's his name?
Seth MacFarlane. But yeah, it's, I didn't even know that existed. Apparently, it's been out like since February or something. So. But yeah, it's like media. It is weird at this point. I mean, by having so much power, I don't think Ted is Disney, but yeah, it's like just by having so much resources now, they can't really like highlight many of their resources very well. So you have a Monsters Inc. show that actually looks like it might be good, and I've never heard of it till I was researching, a podcast for this movie.
Well, you're not the target demo.
Yeah, I'm not. I am curious how much it is. Like you're talking, it's so much after. Are they pitching this towards adults a little bit, or strictly towards kids? Reading that explanation, it kind of sounded like they're trying to hit the tone of this movie. Which in the early 2000s, I really do think that Pixar was seen as like for all ages for a good 10 years.
I think another pattern that we've kind of like a de facto one that you don't have to read into as much, but that Disney almost by design, if not by like Mr. Magooing their way through the world of just like happy accidents left and right. But if it is by design, then some of the stuff they put out doesn't even necessarily need a demographic or a target audience. Like who is the like the Lion King movies and stuff, like or like all the live action remakes in particular. But I think that part of it is just a numbers game. Like if they just flood the culture with just nonstop Monsters Inc. for long enough, then they become the next Grimm fairy tales. That replaces, Hansel and Gretel, or like their Beauty and the Beast replaces the old Beauty and the Beast. So now Monsters Inc. kind of replaces some other, purple-eyed, green-striped, polka-dotted purple eater or whatever. I can't remember the freaking one-eyed, one-armed, green-skinned, purple.
What I mean? I've lost that line. Yeah, no. It's like before you start singing, I might have been able to do it, but yeah, or not. I don't know.
But I mean, I think part of that is that in a very real way, Disney doesn't necessarily always need to. Like they can afford to have these weird losses. The same way that Amazon operated at a loss for the longest time, and then all of a sudden they hit on pay dirt, or like the AI companies that are all basically just been running in the red for their entire existence. Most tech companies, because of this idea that like eventually they will become the lead player in an industry that they're kind of carving out for themselves, which is very much what Disney has kind of been doing. I mean, they exist in the entertainment sphere, but they've carved out like Disney, and like there's people that will just get anything Disney that comes out because they're so bought into the brand and they know what it's like a Starbucks, right? Like they're willing to go into a Starbucks in any place in the world because there's like a certain expectation that usually gets met from going into that place, and a consistency. I think Disney is kind of like that thing. If you're in a foreign land, you're in a foreign, Netflix area, and you're like, oh my God, I don't know what I'm doing. And all of a sudden a Disney movie pops up. It's like, oh my God, thank God, a refuge of some kind. I know what to expect from this. And that part of that it is from just inundating people and saturating them with all this Monsters Inc. stuff. So now it's like you look back on it, you're like, oh my God, there's like 300 hours of Monsters Inc. content. Where did this all come from?
I mean, this is definitely one of the ones that has the most traction. This is where the whole Disney war thing gets going, because Pixar is just on fire at this point, and Disney is falling on its face over and over. So, which I guess we're back to an era of Disney falling on its face a lot. That's been kind of the news over the past year, in most regards, it seems.
Well, Walt, man. I mean, the common theme here is once Walt's out of the picture and his horrible dictator-like ways, but it also, it's a little bit like they're chasing stuff around. Not that Walt always had his finger on the pulse necessarily, like people kept things from him and he didn't always get it right. But it, like, you could almost feel the transition in the movies between when it, like, they had a true madman at the helm versus kind of like a corporate pirate at the helm.
Actually, going back to Ted for a moment, I was watching their Halloween episode last night where they're trying to get their old in this movie, John, the kid is actually a kid. He's like 15, 16 or whatever. And I need to find the name of the movie. She's like, get us a scary movie for Halloween from the video store. And she shows up with like one of the early 80s Disney movies, which she describes as their dark period. And it's a live action one. So it's not on our list, but see if I can get a name of that.
And this is in the 1980s?
Early 80s Disney, which she refers to as dark Disney, which I, for our things that, and we also made that's Black Cauldron. And even the Fox and the Hound had like that certain weird, like kind of dark texture to it,
Is this No Mobile era or was that 70s?
That is actually 60s. That's that was Walt was still around at that point. Here, let's see if I can. Sorry, I'm doing the horrible thing of trying to research things live. Maybe it was a Watcher in the Woods. The Watcher in the Woods.
Oh, was Watcher in the Woods was the exact movie that you're talking about?
That's what she shows them as, like they're like, give us a real horror movie, and of course it shows them like a scene where they're just flipping out, like, oh my god, So
they do, man. They actually do have some. So Watcher in the Woods, The Devil and Max Devlin, Dragon Slayer.
I remember The Devil and Max Devlin because I read the box. Yeah, you see that box. Oh god, and it's scarier now because it's Cosby.
Trench coat, an aspiring mystery writer, becomes embroiled in an international plot during a 2-week stay in Malta. So I assume there's like some Knights Templar stuff going on. Something Wicked This Way Comes. That one's actually pretty terrifying for a PG Disney movie.
That's kind of what the point this show is making, I guess.
Okay, it's a fair point.
And then by 84, they're like, gee, these are getting too hardcore. Let's start Touchstone, it seems. So interesting. The last one.
Return to Oz was definitely a freaky movie. That one still is like a fever dream.
Okay, anyway, that's interesting. Maybe we need to go maybe for October we should go look at dark Disney horror,
I'm down. We just watch all the 80s Disney movies.
Yeah. Something Wicked This Way Comes, and the other one, Watcher in the Woods, was it? Yeah. I haven't seen those. So Devil and Max Devlin, I know I've seen it, but I've forgotten it.
Don't hate me. Flight of the Navigator. Never really a huge fan.
That got me as a kid. I haven't seen it.
I always thought
for
it was
a while,
super boring, man. I mean, I like the premise, but the movie itself is like puts me to sleep, even as a kid.
I haven't seen it since the 80s, but yeah, I am somewhat liked it. But it's a thing where I might watch it now and agree with you. That's just dull, because you got the kid nostalgia doesn't always pay off, does it? Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't, and sometimes it only pays off for you, right?
Yeah, I want to rewatch Something Wicked This Way Comes now.
Yeah, okay. I can call that shot. Let's make October Disney Horror Month. We'll go live action. Yeah, so it's said.
I guess my last real observation on this one, if you wanted to take the dark route for Monsters Inc., being about darker things than just screaming, laughter, and stuff, the very last scene in this movie, it just so shows Sully walking into a room and walking into a child's room and smiling, and then it cuts to black. So it's almost like a weird Tony Soprano style ending where it's like you as the viewer, you get to decide what was he really smiling about? Like, what is the real new version of Monsters Inc. after the old order goes out and the new world order comes in? Like maybe he's really enjoying himself now, but we don't know why.
Meet the new boss, same as the old boss. Again, there's a TV show that can confirm or deny on that, it seems. But.
Right, but that's a 16-year gap. Like what happened in those 16 years?
Well, the show starts the next day. I mean,
So
production wise, yeah, 16 or more, 20 years later almost. But yeah, it did say in the description, like the show starts the next day. So I don't know. Oh yeah, we did spot Nemo in her room. Just call that out, as Pixar loves to put whatever their next movie is in their current movie.
Woody in the very last scene in that same room that has the checkerboard rug and the soccer ball and all that going on. In one of those scenes, they show Woody lifeless, face down on a table with his cord hanging out the back. And
I mean, yeah, it's, an anime, a movie, everything. It's someone made the very specific decision to put everything there. So it's not like, like if you're watching something live action and it's like, well, that set happened to have a checkerboard floor. You can see it in 80 different movies,
Like the Starbucks cup in the Game of Thrones finale.
Yeah. But no, I'm just talking about, again, doing the Twilight Zone. It's like, oh, yeah, I know this set. I know this living room. I've seen this living room 5 times. So if there's any design elements that, it does not fit the plot of what I'm watching, but it's live action and animation. Everything is considered, right?
Until this new wave of AI starts creeping in.
Monsters, Inc., everything is considered.
Right. But I'm saying in general, like at a certain point now, like even right now, well, I don't actually in 2044, maybe not, because like Spider-Verse is trained on AI, at least for some of the face animations and stuff. But in the near future here, AI hallucinations could be adding little details and stuff into the backgrounds of scenes and in the textures and things that unless somebody explicitly filters it out or covers it up or something, like that represents a new dynamic in these animated films where it used to be someone had like if there was a matchbox or if there was a bug on the freaking rug, you know what I mean, or a dot somewhere, like someone decided to put that there. But with AI running the show pretty soon, like it's going to decide what the little fine details are.
I mean, that's thing because you've been doing a bunch of the AI music stuff, including our theme song. Whereas when I make music, even with the electronic stuff, I'll usually try and go as manual as possible. I'm like, every sound is supposed to be there. So if there's just like a drone note on a synthesizer, I'll just sit there and hold it for the 3 minutes of the song, and record that. I'll still do that, I won't use MIDI really. So
yeah, is MIDI still too high tech for you, coming out in the 70s and all?
I mean, I know how to use it. I don't want to use it. I want to play. I'll use a sequencer or an oscillator, an arpeggiator.
I've got like one of the coolest. I don't know where it's at right now. It's behind me somewhere, but it's like a little MIDI brain that you literally connect like 4 different devices to, and it will run like intelligence algorithms. And if I knew you were going to bring up MIDI, man, I would have had more stuff around me to geek out about.
Okay. Well, I have to admit I do spend most of these podcasts actually staring at your blinking lights back there. So
they're nice blinking lights.
They are. You said that was your final point, or did you run that one out?
It was kind of the big ending scene. Was the impression is he's happy because now he can just tell jokes, and it's like, oh, what a wonderful life. But they don't actually show that part, so he could we don't even know if that's the real Sully. They could have.
Or he's about to become a monster.
Exactly. I mean, it's literally a monster movie. So is it that out of the ordinary to assume that it doesn't have a happy ending?
The extra jaded viewer will give it a very dark ending. Just goes in and instantly eats her. Yes, after we cut to black. No, I'm not the guy that goes with that ending, but yeah. But yes, you are correct. You can do that if you want. I get, yeah. Do we see Boo in the TV show? I should check on that. I feel like that wouldn't make sense to put Boo in the show.
It would make sense. If it was the very next day, the only way that would make sense is to keep using Boo at the same age.
Although, actually, that's interesting because that last scene, I have the impression that had to happen a long time later.
Well, define long, especially if this is in the year 5000.
Possibly let's say a few weeks. Let's say a few weeks because Mike has to find all the door pieces, put it together. He's not doing it that day.
Yeah, he doesn't seem that competent.
Yeah, he's not competent enough for it. So
also, I mean that also implies though an interesting workaround. Like if Mike, in his infinite wisdom, which is not that much, can figure out how to put a door back together that was shredded, that seems like another easy way to compromise their system. Because if a door was shredded, it means you're not supposed to go back there for some reason. But now somebody could unshred the door and go back to that place. So there's got to be way more corruption going on that Raz knows about.
I am just scrolling through here. It doesn't look like they have a Boo voice in this show, so maybe not. I don't know. And now I'm just curious, just thinking about time-wise, that I feel like that could be sometime later and after this show or whatever. So again, I guess I just say, we keep talking about a show we didn't watch. So
well, we'll review the rest of the series in year 5000 when it's current.
There we go. I guess we'll shut this one down then if you want to tell people what's going on in your world.
The big one still is nasacomic.com. Even if you're listening to this like 10 years, 15 years in the future, when the next Monsters Inc. TV series comes out, you should still be able to go to nasacomic.com and find out where to get a copy. Right now, if you're listening to it in the year 2024, it's probably running on a Kickstarter campaign, and you can grab an exclusive cover. I've got like some cool holographic trading cards and stuff. We're amping things up because the last few comics have been doing so well that now I can start doing the cooler things that I wanted to. One of those examples is the nasacomic.com campaign will have some embroidered patches, something I've been doing forever, but we're going to make an Apollo 11 parody patch that has Kubrick on the moon filming astronauts with like the Earth in the background. It's got the same color palette, the same dimensions, everything as the Apollo 11 patch with the eagle on it. So I'm like crazy excited about this because the next evolution of this would probably be some morale patches for like your AR-15 bag or something. But I don't know. I'm excited about this project in particular. It's been like 5 years in the making. It's all about Stanley Kubrick directing the moon landings, and it's heavily inspired by sort of like 90s Nicktoons. Like it's got a very strong Ren and Stimpy sort of aesthetic to it. So yeah, go to nasacomic.com, paranoidamerican.com, occultdisney.com, all the .coms.
Flight suit sold separately, yeah. For your patch.
That would be a good upsell for like the $1,000 tier. You actually get a flight suit.
Yeah. So I have a cheap Halloween flight suit in my closet here. That's why I'm thinking about it. As for me, I'll make the music plug today since we've been talking some music. That is at rovingsagemedia.bandcamp.com. I make weird binaural ambient music. I got psychedelic rock. I got folk rock. There's look at the cover. That should tip you off as to what kind of sound you might be getting.
Oh, I mean, if I can squeeze in a music plug too, if you go and search YouTube for now, I don't know how or if I can make it available on like all the regular channels. Bandcamp probably, but on SoundCloud, YouTube, if you search for Neighbors with Apples, and the song is called Straight Out of the City of Compton, all spelled out properly like this. It's basically an AI recreation of NWA's seminal Straight Outta Compton, but sung as a 1950s doo-wop group. And I've been having the most fun making these and a whole bunch of other ones. I've got an ICP one, but it's by the Ice Cream Pals called Dead Bodies. There's a Ghetto Boys remaking of Mind of a Lunatic called Staring at Candles by the Lunatics. Like, I'm planning on doing a whole bunch more of these, but
sorry, what is the title one more time? I'm looking it up right now.
The very first one, it's called Neighbors with Apples, NWA. And the name of the song is called Straight Out of the City of Compton.
Okay. I just, recently, here we go. Yeah. Recently, I've just been getting a bunch of the goofy fake AI songs in my feed, of course. And
then add some more. These are some more that you can add to that same feed.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I'm looking at other people's is my point. That's why I was asking for your feed. I'm looking at Bitches Love Me and rubbing and tugging my nips, as a few old-timey songs.
We do a little bit classier here at Paranoid American.
No, the one I get the very unclassy ones put into my...
there is a remake of Too Short's Cocktails, which is one, like, I guess the original intention was to find some of the most offensive rap songs ever created and make them sound inoffensive unless you listen to the lyrics.
Sorry, I just came across Bobo Bojangles. I think I just shit in my pants with this guy just looking like, oh.
Yeah, for some reason, there's a huge subgenre of country songs about pooping and getting like your genitals caught indoors.
Yes,
like they are blowing up right now.
I have never clicked on any of them. I just enjoy seeing the thumbnails. So I don't know. Anyway, yeah, sorry I derailed myself there. I'm going to shred my door.
Ready for a cosmic conspiracy about Stanley Kubrick, moon landings, and the CIA? Go visit nasacomic.com.
NASAcomic.com, CIA's biggest con. Stanley Kubrick put us on, that's why we're singing this song. I'm NASAcomic.com, go visit NASAcomic.com. Go visit NASAcomic.com. Yeah, go visit NASAcomic.com. Oh, NASAcomic.com, CIA's biggest con. Stanley Kubrick put us on, that's why we're singing this song. I'm NASAcomic.com, go visit NASAcomic.com. Go visit NASAcomic.com. Yeah, go visit NASAcomic.com.
Never a Straight Answer is a 40-page comic about Stanley Kubrick directing the Apollo space missions.
Yeah, go visit NASAcomic.com.
This is the perfect read for comic, Kubrick, or conspiracy fans of all ages. For more details, visit nasacomic.com.
Paranoid. Yo. I scribble my life away, driven to write the page. Will it enlighten your brain? Give you the flight, my plane, paper the highs ablaze. Somewhat of an amazing feel when it's real to real. You will engage it. Your favorite, of course, the Lord of an arrangement. I gave you the proper results to hit the pavement. If they get emotional, hey, maybe your language, a game, how they playing it well without Lakers. Evade them, whatever the cost, they are the shapeshift. Snakes get decapitated, met is the apex. Execution of flame you out, nuclear bomb distributed at war, rather gruesome for eyes to see. Max them out, then I light my trees. Blow it off in the face, you're despising me for what though? Calculated and rather cutthroat. Paranoid American must be all the blunt smoke for real. Lord, give me a day away, vacate. They wait around to hate whatever they say. Man, it's not in the least bit. We get heavy rotate when the beat hits, so thank us, you're welcome. Fuck the niggas for real, you're welcome. They ain't never had a deal, you're welcome. Man, they lacking appeal, you're welcome. Yet they doing it still, you're welcome.